I'm reading this book called King. It's called King of Life. So it's just the story of King, and it's one of the craziest books. Like when you really get to see like the ins and outs of, because you look at Martin Luther King as this huge, speaker and all that, but you really get to see his flaws too, right? You get to see how he's like around our age and still figuring it out, right? He didn't go out to Montgomery till he's like 26, you know what I'm saying? 27, right? So these are just things that like you see him for who he is and how he became. So I would just say books. So everything that we're saying is you want to read books that are where you're at, kind of, right? But when I say where you're at, like you see where they go, like, but then you get to see where they were at when they're your age and all that.
No, good stuff. This has been really great stuff. I would say to even, I guess we're at the closing out point. What is you guys' I guess if you want to say inspiration or go-to books that you read to help you either overcome the hard times and or just continue to inspire you while you're building your businesses? For me, I guess I can start it off. I don't know if it's my top books are Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill, Rich Dad Poor Dad. Those two books really gave me the insights into not only the mindset that you need as an entrepreneur, but also the personal finance that you need. So those two books. And then I have other books as well, more on the I would say spiritual side of things too, that I get into. Dr. Joe Dispenza, he's one of my go-to spiritual gurus. But and he wrote a book called You Are the Placebo, and there's a lot of nice books out there about that. So I'm interested to know whether it's books or people. What do you guys go to?
I'm more of a podcast listener. Unfortunately, I don't read as much as I should, even though my favorite book of all time is Lord of the Flies. I remember reading that back in 5th grade. Always loved that book. But anything that the Wondery brand podcast produces, specifically How I Built This, because when Rye Guys interviews those founders, like recently he did the Liquid Death founder. Very good episode. You should go listen to it. They're telling the trials and tribulations that they went through before they made it to the success that they're currently going through. And that's what I like to hear, because you look at certain news articles, it's this company raised this amount of money, this other company was acquired, and as a founder, you want to get to those goals and grow your company to become that successful. However, when you don't hear those success stories, you said validation. You look for that validation. And it's good to hear those stories of the struggles and the perseverance to keep going.
I would say, to your point, my favorite books are of autobiographies. So like it's silly, but I don't know why I really enjoy this book, but The Keys by DJ Khaled. He just has like little snippets like They Talk and Watch Out for Them and all this stuff. Like I've read that book like 4 or 5 times. But also I love Grinding It Out by Ray Kroc. I love Why Should White Guys Have All the Fun by Reginald Lewis. Who is Michael Vitz? If you're reading this, It's Too Late by Jerry Weintraub. And I think the commonality.
No. If you're
reading this, if you're reading this, you know
this is Drake for a second.
I know. I know.
I was so confused for a second.
No. If you're reading this, it's too late. Yeah. If you're reading this, you know I'm.
He said it's called Jerry Weintraub. Now you got me messed up. Goodness gracious.
Shout out Jerry.
Jerry Weintraub's autobiography. It's a phenomenal book, and that's funny because that's probably the best book.
When I stop
of
talking,
the ones
you know I'm dead.
When I stop talking, you know I'm dead.
Goodness gracious.
If it's
much different.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I've been talking for over an hour. But yeah, that actually is probably the best book of the ones I dropped too. But all of them have that in common, where they it just shows the backside of their relationships, of like how they got to the point, you know, where it's the glitz and glamour of the building a CAA, building a McDonald's, you know, having like being the richest black man in America. Like, okay, yeah, that's probably when you picked up the book, or that's what you know them for. But it's like you didn't know that Ray Kroc was 52 when he met the McDonald's brothers. You know, he had been at this. You know what I mean? Michael Vitz like started, you know, CAA with no money. You know, so like all these things, like it really helps me put my perspective on it. And I think same with you, like podcasts and these books, like I read from the place of what I'm like really into. So I'm not like a Sarah J. Maas, I'm not a hater or a fan. I'm not really into like fiction books or romance or whatever books. I like the movies, sure, but like that's not my go-to books. But for other people, they may be. But I like autobiographies, and to Donovan's point, like you like being able to hear their life story and then learning those lessons and taking it with me.
Yeah, I'm reading this book called King. It's called King of Life. So it's just the story of King, and it's one of the craziest books. Like when you really get to see like the ins and outs of, because you look at Martin Luther King as this huge, you know, speaker and all that, but you really get to see his flaws too, right? You get to see how he's like around our age and still figuring it out, right? He didn't go out to Montgomery till he's like 26, you know what I'm saying? 27, right? So these are just things that like you see him for who he is and how he became. So I would just say books. So everything that we're saying is you want to read books that are where you're at, kind of, right? But when I say where you're at, like you see where they go, like, but then you get to see where they were at when they're your age and all that.
But I know people once more to that point who read books that are fantasy, that's more the escapism.
No, I think it's great.
They like the fantasy nature or the storytelling element of it is kind of like what pulls them away. Like they can't read autobiographies because it's too.
Yeah, I think it's good when people read those type of books because it allows you to see. It's like the world building and the character. It's like a story. Like it unfolds in real time. So I think it's whatever you love to read, you should read it more of it, right? You know, you want to keep reading. You want to be the type of person. I don't know why I'm doing this, but just let y'all know. It's like you want to be the type of person that loves to. You want to read what you love until you love to read, essentially.
Yeah.